In this podcast, I'm sharing my passion and curiosity for soft robotics, where we share inspiring stories about the work we do and how we can push the limit. I am Mara Dwayne, and this is Soft Robotics Podcast. Support for this show comes from Science Robotics Journal. I really find Science Robotics to be a great resource for reliable and tangible research where we can really push the limit of the science we do in robotics. Great way to stay up to date with the published article is checking out the released monthly issue. All the links will be included in each episode description. We will also happen to have a regular conversation on the most published science robotic articles, where also you can contribute with your question and thoughts about the research. Thanks Science Robotics for sponsoring Soft Robotics Podcast. Hello Ricardo, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. Such an honor to have you.
It's my pleasure, my pleasure. We have been trying to get this meeting a couple of times, but finally we achieved it.
Yeah, so maybe I'm curious, firstly, if you can introduce yourself or who you are for audience, maybe first time listening to you. I assume people know who you are, but maybe you can introduce yourself.
Okay, yeah, my pleasure, of course. So I am leading a company which is called The Construct, Subliminal Information. Okay, and then there, what we do is we teach people how to program robots, and especially how to program with ROS, with the Robot Operating System. That's the main difference. And also another difference in our academy, online academy, is that we don't teach by showing videos, but we teach by making the students practice. This is the key difference. So you are not going to be watching a video, but following some notebooks with instructions about how to do things with robots, and not about what is a topic or what is a laser, but how can I make my robot do this? And then by unfolding this question, then you are practicing with the simulated robot that we provide, and then all the other questions, they arise. Because at the end, if you want to make the robot do something, you will need to understand what is the concept of topics. But we don't start with this. So what is a topic? Okay, for what do I need a topic? So why do I need to understand this concept? I don't care. I want the robot to avoid obstacles. Oh yeah, for that you need to use the laser. And to get the data for a laser, you need a topic. Oh yeah, now I get it. I got it. I understand the concept. So that's basically in our academy how we teach students. It is online and anybody can access there.
So maybe before going to more details, I'm curious about the start, because I think the hard thing is about start something and make it successful or maybe sustainable. So since in robotics, I know that's a question, how we can start a startup or business. It's super hard. It's very risky. When you ask people, you say, forget about it. It's so risky. And I'm curious, before starting the company, what kind of something you were doing, and just you take a decision, well, I will start that thing? Because I think that's the hard part, maybe.
Yes. Well, I don't know if I have to explain this and answer your question straight, because as you mentioned, it's very hard and it's not going to work. So it didn't work for us neither. So at present, so it's very difficult to make a successful business with robotics. Very difficult. And especially more difficult if your company is about software for robotics. That's almost impossible. That's almost impossible. And then in our case, we wanted to create cloud simulations. That was 2015. And we wanted to create cloud simulations where ROS developers, they can connect and have very big simulations, very good looking and close to reality simulations that they can use for programming the robot. So instead of having the robot in there, they can use those simulations, do as many tests. That's what now is quite common to do it, for example, with NVIDIA, Isaac, and then you launch several simulations. But at that time, that was not so clear. And then we had this idea. So we started with this, but there was no business. I don't know the numbers about Isaac from NVIDIA, but I'm pretty sure are very low. And other companies that are providing software and trying to sell to the developers, I think that their numbers in terms of business is very low. It's not sustainable because it's so hard to create those systems. It requires so much work, so many engineers. And then at the end, the developers in robotics, we are used to use open source tools. And we want open source tools. And we want to do it ourselves. And that's a super barrier, super barrier. Then at most, people can understand to pay for hardware, for these things. So people understand, okay, so it's something physical. But paying for software? No, no way, because I can do this and this and this and this. Yeah, but that's taking so much time, so much effort, you can have it. No way. No way. So that's the situation. Okay, so I'm telling you that if you're planning to do a company in robotics, I would advise you that you based on hardware. Software, I don't know how to make it business. Then in our case, we use the software that we have created for those 3D simulations in the cloud. We use it now as our engine for our academy. And then that's the difference that we are making with other academies that are there, that are showing videos, basically. They are based on videos or at most Jupyter notebooks. Then in our case, we have this engine that we have created, and it's providing the simulations to the students, so they don't have to care about having simulations ready. And that's how we have transitioned to that way of software. But even there is very difficult. It's very difficult because we are, again, competing against the things that are the free tutorials that are so many there in YouTube and in wikis and all that. So the situation is difficult. It's less difficult for hardware. If you build a robotics company based on hardware, but that has another drawback, which is the initial investment that you have to do is usually bigger, larger, because hardware is a lot more costly. In our case, we can start with any open source and then put a lot of hours and develop. But in the other case, in order to develop this, okay, so this is a JetBot. I'm doing some experiments here, that's why on my table. But in case that you want to develop this, so you have to buy all the parts and start doing the experiment. So the investment in the first hand is more difficult. I don't know if I went out of the question.
No, I understand. And that leads me to the question about what could be missing here, because you try to touch a problem that software alone maybe is not sufficient as a business model, and sometimes we struggle. For myself, to be honest, I'm a big advocate for open source, and I know at the same time it is really painful. It's so painful, and it takes a lot of time. So that's something here you try to apply the hardware, but I'm curious about what you think maybe the missing piece, because I think open source, people want open source, but there's a pain in maintaining the stuff, and sometimes it doesn't work. And it just still, yeah, it's hard sometimes to get the stuff working properly. So where do you think the missing piece do you believe here?
Okay, so I don't know. In my opinion, I also advocate of open source, but I'm not sure that it is so good or so bad. So I think that so at the beginning we were in one position here. Everything was closed, and then the companies, they were abusing of that, and they were so much abuse because you had to go on, with them, otherwise you have nothing. Then it appears the open source, which is a very good idea, and I support it. But then I think that has moved to the other side, and now it's on the other side. So it is abusing on the other side. So everything has to be free. And so I'm happy with that if bread is also free. You can get your bread for free. But in the other case, is for software developers, is very difficult to create your own business. So the only way is to create so much value beforehand, but so much for free, that then you can have some pieces, some small pieces of business attached to the maintenance of that software or adaptations for that software. But in my opinion, okay, so the effort to create all those things in open source is so big than for the small amount of business that you are getting in related products. Or at least that's my experience, or at least I don't know how to do it better. I don't know how to do it better. Then what I would suggest is just to look around the world and see what is happening. So what is happening is that just a few companies in robotics, they are, let's say, successful, but successful, I don't know how to call it successful, because successful doesn't mean that you are getting investment money. Successful for me in business, it means that you have a business that you are selling, and what you are selling, then you can pay you everything and have all the kind of luxuries that you want, of course, and because you deserve it, and all the big salaries and so on. But it, for me, doesn't count when it is coming from an investor. It has to be that it comes from your business, your selling of your product or service. And this, I don't think that, I don't know the numbers of all the companies, but I suspect that just a few, maybe with one hand, we can count it. Maybe just a few. The rest are just surviving, in my case, or about to fail, or based on investment money, and they will stay until they finish this money, or they figure out a business model that is sustainable. That's very difficult. So finding the sustainable. We are fighting every day against that.
Wow. I'm curious, just ask you in that case here, what is lacking here? Because we speak about the technology, sometimes it's not important. You need to find something that the consumer really read it. So when you look to that, you select something I think ministry needed, and we will go to that later. But when you look to the market, what is really lacking here? If it's really, really hard.
Yeah. Then it depends on where you are looking at. So first, if you want to sell products to the consumer, to the typical people outside, I mean, not into the community of roboticists, but to the consumer, then you have to provide something that is useful in some way. And this robotics is not working. The only thing that is robotics useful is the Roomba robot. And now it's starting, it looks like, but I would like to see myself. I haven't seen it. It's robots that go autonomously in the warehouses, and I mean, I understand, I know these ones of Amazon that are, but this is a very particular case. I'm talking in general for the warehouses in general, not that specific warehouse that has been built for that. Yeah. Then in general, I don't know, but it has to work, but because it has to work very well. Otherwise, the people of the warehouses, they are not going to buy it because it's so costly and so on. There is a fight at present there with those machines that are doing the cargo of stuff and bringing it autonomously from one place to another. Also with the cobots that are working at the side. But, okay, so one thing is what we see on LinkedIn and on the news, and another thing, what is the reality? Okay, and then, so I don't have this, direct data in all the companies, just in some of them. Then I cannot talk for all of them, but as far as I know, then I mean, it's still in progress, work in progress in that case. What it means is that there is no killer application. There is no robot that does a service that everyone says, oh, it's very clear. This is solving this problem, and I need to solve this problem. It's not a nice to have. For example, a nice to have robot. It's a drone, a small drone that is moving around the home or your business, and then it sprays some fragrance in order to keep the ambience very well smelling. Okay, that's very cool, super cool idea, super cool. Who is going to pay for that? Nobody, because that's nice to have. So you give me this for free, then I will use it. But if I have to pay 2,000 euros or dollars for that, I will not do it because, so the robot needs to, what I mean is that it needs to solve a real problem, and it has to do it very well. And that is the point. The technology that we have, especially in terms of software, is not robust enough. The hardware is there, I think, so the hardware can solve many, many situations, but the problem is that the software, the intelligence of the robot, is not strong enough. So that's for consumer products, okay? So for consumer. That's lacking is this utility, some problem that the robot can solve very well, okay? So that's not available, in my opinion. And on the other side, if you want to sell to our community, the community of roboticists, then there is a lack of, I would say that there is a lack of competition. So the companies, it's in my opinion, okay? So this is my opinion, and please, listeners that are there, understand that it's based on my experience and my reflections and so on, so you can disagree. In my opinion, there is no real competition. Competition means that if you don't sell more than the other, you go out of business. If you don't sell, so basically the companies, what I mentioned, is based on investment money, and when the investment money is runs out, the company dies. Example, Baxter, the robot, Jibo, the robot, this is small Vector. So many, so it's plenty of those companies, because they are not providing any useful thing, and they are not competing against each other in order to do it faster, better, with less amount of money spent on this. Then, if you do this, then you can take all the time of the world, and so to do your things and then to try. I know of companies that they are building their own ROS. So they are starting from that point of building their own ROS, which is in my opinion, is a complete waste of time. They think that they can do ROS better. Probably they can, but the effort is not worth it, because you have to start selling. You have to start as soon as possible, or not selling, but trying to test your product, see the acceptance of the public, if it is going to be accepted, your product, or where it fails, so people can give you some feedback, and then you can change, and then try it again, and so on. This process of lean startup. So you need to do this as fast as possible, because otherwise you're going to run out of money. So this pressure doesn't exist in robotics, in my opinion. And because it doesn't exist, then every tool that you create in order to speed up, to make the life easy to the developers, or in this way, then is going to fail, in my opinion. So nobody is going to buy this because they don't really need it. It's nice for them to have it if you provide to them for free. But if they have to pay, they are not going to pay for that. They prefer to do it themselves. And it's plenty now of those tools, especially, for example, there are some tools like now that show you the status of the robot in a web page. So you can remotely understand there are several companies that are selling this kind of products. And well, I don't know their status, okay? I don't know. I know that there are movements there. Some have been bought by other companies. That's cool. But I don't see the business in there. Sorry for this depressing. But I think that it has to be in order to understand what is the situation, so we can improve it and move forward. What can we do to solve this?
Yeah, actually, I think you said a really excellent point, and I agree with you, because I think when you say there's no competition regarding something useful, because I think even in academia, we have this point why we do what we do. Some of research is really meaningful, but sometimes we do stuff because it's trendy, and what is the application? Or I think that's something also we have in academia in some way or another, but And that's leads me to the question, picking the problem. And I think when you say that building ROS from scratch again is waste of time, and there's no point of doing that. And that leads me to a question about the complexity, because we had an episode about open source tools with Professor Peter Cork, and he said that because of the open source we have this complexity, and he doesn't really agree with what's happening. And when you try to avoid this complexity, how you manage to use ROS and develop it so that it can meet the student need or the customer need? How you manage to do that?
Yeah, well, how you manage? So from an academia point of view, I see that very difficult because many problems out there in the academia. But, and I don't want to get into there because it's too complex. It's because academia is different. Other's perspective from a company, yeah, the problem is that anybody that creates a tool on top of that, on top of ROS and all this complexity of the open source, it has to provide this as open source. Otherwise, it's not going to be used almost for sure. Then, if you provide this, your work is like, it's work, you have done all this work and still you have zero income. So you have to do it on your own, I don't know, your own, having another job, or with you have some savings, or I don't know how you are going to do it, but you have to do it for free. And then once you have this, you have to promote it so people use this and find them useful. So you have to be trying to keep like a lean startup, trying to make it work and in the way that the developers want it to make it work. And then once you have that, then now you can think about finding a business model that supports that. So far, what I have seen that some business models that they have succeeded is because they are providing this software, but for free. Let me give you an example: Moveit software or Robot Simulator. So they are very, very good examples of very, very good products that are provided as open source for free. And then the companies behind it, they provide consultancy services for ROS, for robotics, for developing projects using ROS, robots, simulations, and so on. So because they are experts, because they have developed this, they have the credibility also, they know the tool also perfectly because they have developed, they can provide those consultancy services. And this is one of the lines that I think it's working, the consultancy services, but based on a reputation or based on a product that you are providing for free and that you have to maintain. Okay, so it's not once done and then and you have to keep with the new versions of ROS, with the new versions of C++, solving the errors, the issues. So you have to do the consultancy and the maintenance of this in order to have this business. Okay, so it's difficult. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you that, and we are in this fight. Okay, so we are doing this fight, but sometimes it's very tiring.
Yeah, I'm curious about this kind of fighting and the challenges, and how you manage also to deal with the stress and the fighting to do things working every day, because it seems not easy. How you manage to do that? It's challenging. Yeah.
Yes, well, the thing is that our team is very small. We are only 10 people, so we can move quickly, we can manage easily, and we keep our infrastructure small. No, not slow, not low, small. Small. We keep that, so that simplifies. And what I try to do all the time is simplify. This is my motto, and I try to provide this to my team also, is, hey, please simplify. Why simplify? Because the guys on the other side that are going to use our software, our solution, whatever we produce, they will understand better if it is simple. Simpler is always easy to understand, easy to sell, or I mean, at least to sell is to send your message so people can understand. And then on the other side, in the inside of the company, is simpler to maintain. So if that's the way that we try to manage. But of course, so sometimes the stress takes you, and then, so what can we do? We do what we can. In my case, solutions. So for example, then meditation. You have to do it, definitely. Going to the gym. You have to go to the gym at least 3 days per week, at least, to do something. And if you cannot do that, then go and have a walk of thousands of steps. Okay, then those things, I have noticed that when I don't do this, then my levels of stress go up. And then I start to be mad at everything. So like angry at things, at every small thing. And then I notice this, I say, oh, wait, okay, let's go to the routine again. Let's go to that routine. And yeah, so those are some things that we try to use and to apply in order to decrease the stress and to be on the fight.
Yeah, that's really good point. Yeah. So if we're still listening about ROS, if you can tell us about maybe the updates and why do you think also it's very, for every first one, for someone for first time is want to use ROS. So if you can just tell, because it's the capabilities or the strengths of what you're doing and why it should work considering the solutions.
Yes, well, it depends on which point you are coming. So the person is coming. So if the person is going to work on development for robots, that means create software for robots. For example, artificial intelligence for robots, that this is needed and is going to be needed in the close future a lot. That's what we are lacking, actually. Then in that case, you need to understand, you need to program in ROS, because ROS is the one that is providing us a standard interface for programming all kind of robots. It's the only one. Well, there are others, but with less spread, so they are less accepted or used in many robots. So many robots, and every company appears new, then they are using ROS from the very beginning. Big companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, many companies, they are jumping into that train. Even I don't know, for example, Universal Robots, they are creating their drivers for the robots, and they didn't want to because they have their own system, and so it's okay. But now they see the importance of this system. So many robots, they have the same interface, programming interface, which is ROS. Then if you want to have more chances for your programs to be accepted in more robots, then it's better for you to use this. If you want to create a company, why? Then definitely, if you want to create a hardware company, definitely you should jump straight into ROS, because it's going to save you so much time on creating all the framework, all the infrastructure that will allow your engineers or third-party engineers create applications for your robot. Also, it will be easier for your company to hire people that know ROS. So if you have your own system, then you have to have engineers that have to come to your place, learn your system, and then program for your system. If your system is ROS, just hire an engineer that knows ROS already. And it's easier also to teach them because there are many courses, for example, at the Construct, or other places also, like the wiki of ROS, which is also excellent, and it's a free resource. I always recommend that one. That's where I learn, on the ROS, using the wiki, the official wiki. And then if you are a developer, a person that wants to develop, you have to jump in ROS, definitely.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Since you close the end, I have a few questions maybe for the company. What's your aspiration? Because you already have a podcast about it as well. And I think you're doing also excellent job about the things you talk about, But maybe what's the aspiration? Where do you see the company should lead for? Because it's really challenging, but I don't know, when you try to think about what the next thing, what's maybe you want to enhance or add to as a plan.
Okay, so well, one of our closest plans, actually, this is going to be, I think, breaking news in your channel, in your podcast. So we haven't announced anywhere, and nobody knows. But what we are preparing right now, it's a course, which is so far what we have so far in our academies are courses that you go and take them, and then you can do it at your own pace, and they are separated courses like the basics of ROS, or how to do deep learning with TensorFlow and ROS, or how to apply ROS with NVIDIA Jetson Nano. So we have all those courses, how to do perception in ROS, and manipulation using MoveIt, and so on. But now, what we are preparing is going to appear to be launched in September. It's a full job ready program that lasts for several months. It's 6 months plus 1. And then this is going to lead you. So we are going to guide the students from the very beginning, use from zero knowledge to know everything that you need to know until you become a ROS developer that is ready to work in a company. Not because it knows ROS, but because it knows ROS and all the development tools, and how to use all those development tools with ROS in order to program, create software in a robotics company. So you will be a ROS developer, a real ROS developer, ready to hire. And of course, it will be a junior, because but you will know about programming, about C++. You will need to you will know how to create simulations, how to do unit tests, how to use Docker, how to use Git in a collaborative environment. Even it's including the Scrum functionality. So the students are going to be led by us in a Scrum manner. So we are going to manage their tasks in a task manager. They have to do a daily presentation of their goals of the day for studying. It's a 6 months and it's concentrated, so they have to be concentrated on that. But after that period of 6 months, they will be ready to work. Then it's 6 months plus 1 month that we are going to take those students and provide them with an internship in one company around the world. So we are establishing collaboration with some companies. So this last month, 6 months plus 1 of internship in one ROS company around the world. And that's the direction that we are going.
That's very excellent and very cool. Yeah, I really impressed by that. So that's, yeah, I don't know, the student should have a background in that case, because some people from electrical engineering, or they may be interested in changing. Do you think there's prerequisites so that you can be enrolled in 6 months and just 1 month internship, or how do you envision the student or the person can be eligible for these courses? Yeah.
Yes. So those. So you have to be you have to have had at least high school, at least. That's the minimum. So because you need to know the basics of math and so on. Then you don't need to know about programming. The more programming that you know, the better. But we are going to start on the basics, learning how to program in Linux, using the Linux system, programming Python in order to start. So they are going to learn Linux, also Python. But we are going to switch quickly. After the first month, we are going to switch quickly to C++, because Python is very easy to use and people get it very quick. So it's going to be only the tool for the first month. But after that, all the rest of the months is going to be on C++, learning C++ and applying C++, because that is the tool, that's the programming language that the companies in robotics, they are using. So companies, I'm talking for companies, okay? So this is job-ready series of courses that we are launching. A program, I mean, it's a program, it's a complete program. You cannot take only this and only that. You start from the beginning and you go to the end. Then C++ is mandatory. And then we have to start as soon as possible, and then start practicing all the rest of the program, practicing different aspects of C++, also apply to ROS, etc., etc. We start with Python so they can have the basics of programming faster, because if you start with C++, that's it's too much to swallow. Unless you already know Python or you already know, but this program is ready for somebody that has never programmed, so they are going to learn to program with us. And all the programming tools that developers use, like Jenkins, Docker, as I mentioned, Git, doing unit tests, functional tests, in combination with simulations that launch automatically on the cloud. There is also a chapter of the cloud. But all these apply to robotics. Then, to answer finally your question, so you need to have the minimum amount of mathematics in yours. That I think is high school. If you have more, then that's better. You are going to understand better and take more profit of the program.
Excellent. But I'm going to ask you maybe a question, because we ask this question on the community about simulation to reality gap. And to be honest, sometimes when try to use, I'm using a couple of tools for soft robotic, but still it doesn't really capture this kind of nonlinearities or dynamics or this kind of uncertainty. How do you deal with that if, like a consumer just wants to see or anticipate the same exact behavior? We're not here like approximate or converge. We need something accurate. Can you tell us about that, this gap, how it's, for you when you try to design something,
Okay, so here I'm not going to talk about research, okay? So research is something different. Again, for of many reasons. Let me go to the companies. Okay, so companies, why they need to use simulations. Even if simulations are not exact as the real robot. Okay, the goal of the simulation at present is not to simulate perfectly for the company the robot that they have. The simulation has another role. It's a practical role. So you can, while your robot is not even built, your developers can start programming the code for that robot if they have the simulation. Okay, I understand. This code is not going to work the same way in the real robot, I understand, once it's done, but you can polish many things. And you can have the core of the software already working, and you know that this core is going to work also on the real robot. And then it's the polishment that you need to do on the real robot afterwards. Only once you know that the software is running in the simulation. So the simulation here, the role is not to, I will do it only everything in the simulation. When it's working, then we just put it on the robot and we go to have coffee or a beer. No, it's not that. It's not that. It's for speeding up the process of creating your first code in an easier way. So you don't have to first wait for the robot if it is not there, but even if it is there, doing it on the simulation is a lot faster to develop. It's a lot faster, and it's going to prevent you from doing some things like breaking the robot. So if you have an arm and you program wrongly, then it can crash against something, against the table. So you can prevent all those situations first by trying on the simulation. And then you are going to remove those bad, and then once you put it on the real robot, you fine-tune at the end. Then this is different for research, because in research it depends on the goal that you have, that you want. For example, in reinforcement learning, when you are learning, making a robot to learn. Okay, so yeah, that's very cool, but I don't think any of the robots that are sold for something being done, it's applying that training in the real life. So I mean, it's cool for research, and it's the future of programming the robots, but it still is not that good how to put this into a commercial product. Maybe there is one case that I don't know, yeah, maybe, but in general, it is not. So that's why I'm not talking about the simulations in research. For research is different because their goals are different, are to create a paper. The goal is to create a paper, not to sell a product that works all the time. And then I think that we should not go on that direction of the research using the simulation because it's going to be very long. There are many parts in there.
Excellent perspective. Excellent. I'm curious about maybe the doubt or maybe a mistake you did, I think, since 2015, and maybe if you want to share a mistake in the process. Or maybe because you say you're still fighting sometimes because, of course, everything is challenging. You have a moment of doubt sometimes.
Yes. Yes.
Oof, many mistakes. Many. Actually, I think it's most of the time it's a mistake that doesn't work. And then sometimes something works. Sometimes, but I don't know. So let me think about. So many I'm overwhelmed about this, and also which ones I can explain, and which ones I cannot. Oh yeah, let me give you an example. For example, we decided to translate our courses to other languages because many people were asking, "Hey, we want on this language, we want on this other language." Okay, let's start doing it. And then one of the main languages that was requested was Spanish. And I'm a Spanish. Just for the people that doesn't know, then, okay, so cool, let's do it in Spanish. Yeah, the problem in Spanish area, let's say Spain and South America, Spain especially, is that nobody wants to pay for that. So we are doing a lot of work, a lot of effort, put multi-code into our platform, then send this to translators that do the job and check that everything is correct. And so we have different versions in our system. If you modify the course in one place, you have to go to all the other languages and modify again. So it's super complex. And then nobody was taking the courses in Spanish because the people who wanted to have the courses in Spanish didn't want to pay for having the course because they prefer to go to the wiki or YouTube video. And I understand that, but from a business perspective, that's very bad move because you waste a lot of time and you are based on the feedback, of the people that say, oh yes, in Spanish, they say, oh, it's super cool. And then, okay, yeah, but to provide this in Spanish, we need to switch our platform to multi-language, at least to support 2 languages. So that's a lot of work. And then at least, in order to test, you have to provide at least 1 course. And so that's a lot of work, and then it ends. So at those moments, you think, wow, it's so, I don't know if this is worth it. It is worth it because so much work for nothing. And then you start to doubt.
Yeah, I can imagine that. But I think we learn from that as well. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So we learn other methodologies about testing, for example. So we don't have to invest all the work on this in order to accept. For example, let me give you an example. Hey, we are going to do a webinar about programming this. I don't know. Everybody is interested, and then the people, oh, wow, yes, super interested. Then you say, okay, let's put it. It's open. So we want to show this. It's open. It's for free. Then let's put it because we want to, I don't know, to run ads, or we want to use this, the people coming, for selling another product or another event that is going to be a paid event, for example. But we provide the full programming of this. So there is no trick, okay? No trick. This, you attend the course and then you are going to end knowing how to program this 100%, okay? But then this is a lot of work. Then you have to have a return in some way. If you are thinking of a business model, okay? Then you have to return. Then you think about, adding ads or mentioning another paid event that will be in 2 weeks. So you expect that the attendance you will get some return. Okay, then you put it for free, and then so many people said it's going to attend, and then you go on the day of the event, and almost nobody attends. Just most of the people, they register it, they say they are going to come, they are super interested, they say yes on the forum and so on, but they don't even dedicate the time to attend. Okay, I'm not judging that. I'm not judging if it is, this, I'm not judging that. I'm just thinking from the business perspective. Then, okay, so you learn this mistake, and then what you do is very, very simple trick. Very simple trick. Oh, yeah, so you're interested, very cool. So here is the date that we are going to do this free webinar, but it's not going to be free. It's going to be, I don't know, 2 euros, 5 euros, just very, very small amount of money. And then this acts as a barrier. So many people completely disconnect, completely say, oh, it's not zero, then I don't go. And that is very good, because only the people that are really interested are going to go through the process of making the payment and paying the 5 euros. And then afterwards you can even return the 5 euros. So you can say, it's going to be returned if you attend, for example, if you want. Okay, it's not necessary, but it depends on the philosophy of each company. But then by doing this simple trick, you can prevent, all the wasted time on doing the webinar, on delivering and so on, because you got a bad feedback, not a bad, but an unrealistic feedback from the audience when you are asking. So you cannot, for example, you cannot ask the audience about what they think, because what they think, I mean, everybody thinks whatever. You can ask, hey, are you going to take this action? No, so not ask. You are going to request, hey, take this action if you support this. Action doesn't have to be paid money, but do something that is a little bit painful. Then only the people that really support are going to take the effort. And then you can know the real interest for that. Otherwise, the other thing is just saying like for like, that you put in, you like because like is costs me nothing. But when I have to put it, okay, wait a second, but our interest is to get something in return. So if we cannot get not even attendance to the workshop, wow, that means that there is no interest at all. So there is no business there.
Yeah, that's a very good point as well. I think when we speak about business, I think it's different from academia at all. So I can understand. But maybe what could be the most important quality you think? After all that, one important quality you should maintain, or you should have. You should mention meditation and going to gym, for example. But the quality, I think, is very important for you.
Oh, okay. Well, one of the qualities is, so in our case, for example, is never surrender. Never surrender. So it's, and this is in my case is part of my philosophy. So that doesn't mean that you are going to be going against the wall all the time, because that's sometimes it's stupid. So the wall, you cannot break the wall. And maybe you at the beginning you don't know, so you crash one time, and then the next time you had to crash, but in a different direction. It's like instead here and see if it still stays there. And then if it stays, then okay, that's not the direction. So this is not the way. So maybe we can go under, or maybe we can go on the top. And that going up under, that may mean that you change completely your business model. So instead you wanted to do simulations, but for some reason it looks like selling those pen drives for robotics. This is the business, where the business is. And you are discovering this because doing this, so going here, then hitting on the other direction, and then you pay attention to what is happening around, so you find this. Okay, and then this is something that I like very much, is from martial art which is called Wing Chun. And the Wing Chun is a type of Kung Fu that is the first one that Bruce Lee started to learn. Then he learned many others, but his base was on this. And then the Wing Chun is very cool because basically it teaches you this principle. And the principle is that if you go against something and then you hit an obstacle, then you should not, our natural tendency is to, then I'm going to push more. And then, no, Wing Chun is just the opposite. It says, oh, there is an opposition here, so it doesn't make sense. So I'm going to move here and then go on the other direction, underneath, or maybe going on the other side. It depends on the situation, but it teaches you that if you find an opposition, please don't. Maybe you are the strongest man in the world and then it's going to work for you. But for most of us, it's not going to work. So you have to figure out how to go on the other side, on beneath, on here, on another way. And that's the principle that I like. So we are completely 100% committed to succeed. How to succeed, that's different. So if you say, oh, you are committed 100% to succeed to ROS, with ROS, okay. So far, yes, but I don't know. So I don't see, at present, I don't see that much business in ROS. I don't see. So far is the best option for me. But maybe at the end, I don't know. So let me give you another example. So recently we have included into our academy a system that allows people to deliver workshops online. So anybody, if you want, you can deliver inside our platform and you get paid for that by the attendance. So you can invite anybody. We also invite people to attend. It's a paid workshop. And usually they are based on concentrated, just a few hours, where a subject, one single subject is mastered. So the person explains, I don't know, for example, you are an expert in reinforcement learning with OpenAI. Then you are going to do a workshop teaching this. So the people is only up to 15 people. And then they are going to, it's like a master class about this, 5 hours. Yeah. So we have included this into our system, which means that others are delivering the workshop instead of us. So, and we share the winnings, so the payment for the attendance. So we share, we keep a part, and then the presenter keeps another part of the money. Then maybe this is going to be a super successful business model. So we'll not do any more courses in the future, but there will be, the platform will be let's say the YouTube for ROS developers, for example. Yeah. So maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I think what you say is very inspiring, because sometimes, to be honest, it's so hard to figure out this kind of how to find other ways, because sometimes we have ego in our mind and we're just hitting the wall and we don't understand how we can get around. It takes a lot of time to have different perspective. It's hard. But I appreciate sharing that thing. Very useful and very interesting. Yeah.
Let me recommend you then one of my favorite books. So this is one of my favorite. It's an American guy. He's a ex-Navy SEAL. Let me put it here for the audience. First, the book is beautiful. It's beautiful. Discipline equals freedom. And the author is called Jocko Willink. I love this guy, okay? So this guy is this kind of guy, is the one that is going to win. He is going to win. And then this book talks about this, how to be disciplined. And one of the things that he talks is what you mentioned, is about the ego and how we need to learn to put it aside, because it can rule, as you mentioned. It's exactly what you said. So, and you get like blind for your own ego, and I have to go, and then you keep doing. It doesn't work.
Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing this recommendation. Really good point. Yeah, thank you. I don't know if you have any final words before we close. We would like to say, before we're closing, any final words you'd like to say?
Oh yeah. So besides what I have done, I would recommend that people that is willing to create a business in robotics goes for it. Goes for it, definitely. And if you don't want to create a business, but you want to create programs for robots, then go for it. Okay, so those are the ones that have the, let's say, the easiest, right? The easiest, but not that easy, but easiest, because there are ROS developers. They are requested all the time. So if you go for ROS to learn about ROS, if you want to become a ROS developer, for example, doing the program, the master program that we are going to do at the Construct in September, is starting in September. So, or any other place, okay? So, you know, I'm joking. Then that's a very good path, because we all are dreaming about those robots that are super intelligent, that help us. Me myself, I since I was very little, since I was a child, I was thinking about making robots intelligent. I didn't know about artificial intelligence concept when I was a child, but I was willing to have machines that I can relate to them and talk to them. They understand and they help us, and that's the future that I imagine. I'm not thinking about a future of robots that are overtaking the world and enslaving us. I don't think about that. Maybe in another conversation, in another podcast, we can discuss why about this. But I think just the opposite. Just the opposite. They can be a super extreme helpful tool, friend, companion, supporter, and make our life easier. A lot. And then that's the future that I'm working for. And if you want to be part of that future, then you have to learn how to program the robots. If you use ROS, that's your best chance now. And this is the kind of people that robotics is lacking more. The hardware to clean our room already exists. What doesn't exist is a software that is able to control that hardware and make it perform the task of cleaning the room. Or go with us to bring us some packages from, I don't know, from the Amazon warehouse to our home. Come here. So the hardware already exists. What doesn't exist is the software. The same for autonomous cars. Okay, so it looks like autonomous cars is solved, but it is not. And there is plenty of work there for programmers, for developers. So go on that direction. If you want to do the business, go for the business. It's going to be hard, but it's also very it's refreshing. I don't know how to say in English, but it means that it's very cool for you, because you are fighting against the most difficult. The most difficult is solve the problems and then sell them. That's super difficult. And then it's going to be, it's like a challenge. If you like to challenge yourself, then that's very cool. And you cannot lose in any point. At some point in time, maybe you will have to close your company, but you will have learned so much. You will have toughened, I don't know how to say in English, but toughened so much. You will have so much experience, so many contacts, so that it's just worth it, even if it fails the company. So if you are like in that direction, perfect. If you are in the direction of creating intelligent robots, that's exactly what the world needs. We need people that is able to create those intelligent algorithms. They don't exist yet. So plenty of room. I think that's the final things that I can say for the podcast.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. It's very enjoyable and inspiring. And I think what you're doing is a really great job. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure, Marwa. My pleasure, Marwa. So then see you around the world, right?